Hey guys, Storm here. Trying something a little bit different this time around. This is actually recorded on YouTube itself. Previously, I've been trying one software or another before realizing that there's probably some easier tools than downloading whatever I can from the internet. Uh, we'll see. I've done a couple of test trials before this. Seems like it's pretty easy to go stream the video together from a live stream, essentially. And well, we'll see how it goes. So this month's challenge, I've been on a bit of a hiatus for a while. Got a new job. That's kept me very busy, but starting to settle down on that, and I've got more free time for mead. I've probably only brewed like 3 batches in the last 6 months or so, and that's a slow go of it for me. So looking forward to getting back into it here. So in my hand, I've got a Bochet. Basically, it's a mix of all the other Bochets I've done previously this year. Back in January, I started a couple of them, and the leavings of all of it, threw it in a big batch. Because I did like 60 gallons of Bochet or something like that, and yeah, the mix is fine. It's got rose, it's got apricot, it's got blueberries, oranges, a little bit of hot pepper. Let's see, a Jamaican red hot, and yeah, it all kind of blends together. It's fine. I mean, it's really nothing special, but I got like 3 gallons of it, and I like to try it every once in a while and see how the batches are aging. The Bochet's probably will peak in about 3 years. I do a really heavy toast, and it just takes a while for that to mellow into what I'm looking for. Right now, at a bit under a year, it's fine. It's a little bitter. Definitely a heavy toast to it, but where it's going is really, really good. The balance between the acidity and some of the bitterness is pretty good. The sweetness is a little low and muted, but as the bitterness decreases, as this kind of like charcoal flavor mellows into toffee and marshmallow and caramel and chocolate, very dark chocolate, the balance will dial back into where I want it to be. So I want it to be a little too bitter right now to mellow into what I want. Heavy toast pochés are really hard to do. So this is very important for our current discussion because this month's challenge will be making caramel apples. So the best way to do that is with caramelized honey. You know, if you want to make good caramel, you need to use butter. I'm not 100% sure on how some of this works, but there's a lot of whisking involved, and it turns like into this toffee sort of thing. We can't do that because of the fats, and caramel and the dairy in it is really iconic for that kind of sweet taste you put on an apple. So we're gonna have to fake it until we make it. So in that vein, I have melter honey. My beekeeper, he's a commercial pollinator, has lots of melter honey just from cleaning out his hives and stuff. And it's cheap. It's terrible for most things, like it's too strong to put into like baking goods and stuff like that. But for Bochet's, it's exactly what you want. So we've got a little taste of it here. Chocolate. Chocolate is definitely the biggest thing. Um, Caramel. It's basically pre-Bochetized honey. You can go and bochet this a little bit longer, boil it a little longer, and get it darker, which is what I've done for previous ones here. But I don't want to go do that this time around because I want to keep the toast a little bit lighter. And I think, given that taste, it's good enough right now. So the color on it is like this dark, rich black and dark brown already. That's exactly what you're looking for in a good melter honey. And this one I've actually gone and drank some of it beforehand to go figure out exactly how it tasted and then see how it changes when I add a little bit more of the melter in and then a little bit of this Belgian candy syrup. And this is going to be one of our other big things. Not that you can read it since it's going to be backwards, but I have got Belgian candy, both dark brown and the other one I have is just straight dark. The dark is a little bit more bitter, and the dark brown it's kind of like brown sugar, but like with more caramel notes to it. It's that one's really good. I've got a pound of each, and that's what we're going to use to back sweeten the batch. If you're following my recipe exactly, so I've put a little bit in here, and it's definitely got some of that note to it. The strong flavors, the rose is probably the most dominant in that, which we're working with something different. Cyser. Cider is very delicate, so it's not going to be quite so dominant. I think we'll be able to get the Belgian candy to stand out really proud, to get the relatively low toast on the melter honey to stand pretty proud, and you can come up with something pretty good when it comes to all of that. So personally, since I love high ABV stuff, I'm going to go pull out a batch, and the recipe will be linked in the notes here. Probably do like a 150 SG kind of start, looking somewhere in that ballpark. And so then the goal will be to back sweeten it with just the sugars that we want. So ferment it mostly dry, get some of that caramel left in it from the fermentation, but then you put in a full pound of the dark brown for sure for our back sweetening sugar, and then to taste on the dark. The dark, I think, is going to be easy to go overboard with. Probably only going to start around half a pound and see how that goes. Then the last real trick is, obviously we're starting with a pail of juice here, but if you want more apple flavor, sometimes it's a good idea just to give it a kick in the seat of the pants and use some really good frozen apple juice concentrate. If you can find like the local concentrate, great. If not, whatever you find at your local grocery store can work pretty well. And so it's got some sugar in it, so it's good for back sweetening. And you just throw that concentrate in secondary, and it can really amplify the apple flavor. Other things with this is the apple will be muted after fermentation. So you want to wait 9 months, 12 months, and especially since it's a Bochet, you want to really wait that time for everything to really start to develop. This is not one that you're going to want to drink, excuse me, this year, but then to have this ready for fall season next year is a pretty good thought with this one. So yeah, looking at my recipe here, 1.155 target OG, ferment that down almost dry, back sweeten to somewhere around 1.015, 025, somewhere in there. This will be a little bit drier than some of the meads that I usually do. I mean, I know that sounds kind of like a lot of sugar in these, but if you've got 16, 18% alcohol by volume, it's okay for it to be a little bit sweeter, make it a little bit more of a sipping drink. The other big players are going to be Ferment O, Ferment K, DAP. That's my usual nutrient regimen. That'll be in there. There's tools available on the subreddit if you want to see exactly, how to come out to those calculations. But then pectic enzyme. I mean, there's plenty of pectin haze in cider if you don't deal with it. So you want to do that right away at the beginning because pectic enzyme is inhibited by alcohol. I will not be using an aggressive one like Lalzyme EXV. So there's no need to use something too aggressive if you've got just one easy source of pectin to be dealing with. And since I'm live streaming this, I guess I've got some people coming in. So with the other ingredients we've got going, last one will be bentonite. So I like to use about in a batch of this size, 6.5 gallons, 26 grams of bentonite right away in primary, and that's done dry. You just put it in, and as you're mixing and aerating for the first, 3, 4, 5 days, whatever happens to be before you hit your 1/3 SG break, it mixes in very, very well, and you can end up with brilliantly clear meads just a few months in with no other work needed. I mean, you can cold crash, you can use sparkleoid and all the others, but bentonite on its own almost always does the trick for me, especially when it comes to macro particles and larger fruit solids you're looking to get knocked down. This batch won't have that, but it's still great for knocking stuff out of suspension like yeast or any solids that may be in your juice, cider, depending on where you're at, whatever you want to call it. I've got a local place. They do a press every couple of weeks. I was hoping to have the juice for this, but the press got delayed, so I wanted to get the video out. And I'm going to get a big 5 gallon pail of cider. It's unpasteurized. It is no preservative free. There's no ascorbic acid, nothing in it. It's just the juice. They can't tell me what apples are in it. They say it's just kind of a mutt. But they're good apples. I've gone to the farm before. They're not like what you'll get at the store. They're not Granny Smiths. They're not Red Delicious. All the rest. They're very, very tart, and that's what you want in a good cider apple. Is something that's almost more tart and more sweet than you'd really want to eat as a table apple. And those are just perfect. As I understand it, in Prohibition, basically all the good cider apples got all cut down and then replaced with different strains, different varieties. And there is just not that many places that are really good to get really good cider apples now in the United States anymore. It's coming back every once in a while. Different places are doing pretty well. My home state has the Arboretum. Minnesota does a pretty good job of trying to get apples, just different cultivars all going. And it's good to see a lot of the orchards doing really well here. So we've got the juice, we've got the sugars, we've got the kind of honey that we want to use. And in a little bit, you'll be able to take a look at my recipe. So that's about how I would go tackle making a caramel apple.